Tonight's show, the Cougar men's basketball team looks to make moves in the Pac-10 on their road trip to Northern California.
The women's basketball team looks to carry over their great play from last week as they host Cal and second-ranked Stanford.
And Jim Sterk heads for the beaches in San Diego.
Stay tuned for all that and much more on ITL.
Good evening and welcome to Inside the Lines. I'm Michael Preston.
And I'm Dominic Sheldon. Thanks for joining us live from Studio A here in the Murrow Complex on the WSU campus. We have a good one for you tonight, so let's get to it, Prez.
Okay, boss man. Well, last Friday, the Cougar Nation received some shocking news. Athletic director of the past 10 years, Jim Sterk, announced that he will be leaving WSU for the same position at San Diego State University. Now, Sterk has undergone some criticism over the past few years for the decline of the football program, but also has received heavy praise for reviving the basketball program by hiring Dick and Tony Bennett, and presently with his hire of Ken Bone. Here's what Coach Ken Bone and head baseball coach Donnie Marbut had to say about Sterk's departure.
Well, I think I and the rest of the staff here are sorry to see him leave just because he's such a quality guy and did an outstanding job in our minds. I was only here for the last 10 months under his direction, but I met Jim back in 1990 or 91 when he was at Seattle Pacific, and I was there also at the same time for about the same deal, 9 or 10 months, and they left there to go to Tulane. But I think first and foremost was just the fact that Jim's a great person, and everybody really enjoyed working with him and for him.
Jim gave me an opportunity at 29 years old to be a head coach in the Pac-10, and that's something that I'll be forever grateful for. And you know, he's there for you, the good times and the bad times. The one thing that Jim Sterk has that's unquestioned is humongous integrity. So, you know, he's a good person. But, you know, you can't fault people for moving on. If Jim thinks that's the best decision for him and his family, then we have to wish him well. And he made a good point. You know, maybe it's an hour, maybe it's a day. We got to move on because, you know, we can't cry over spilled milk because of, you know, I can't tell my next boss we can't win any games because we lost the old AD. We got to move on, and you know, we got to win some ball games. But you know, we wish Jim nothing but the best. And you know, I called San Diego State this morning. We'll get a home and home set with those guys unless he screws it up, and we'll be taking the Cougs over to Jim's house for dinner.
After a homestand versus Arizona State in Arizona, the Cougs hit the road last weekend to take on Cal and Stanford. The Cougs jumped all over Stanford in the first half of Thursday's game, leading by 15 at the half. But by the second half, it was a very different story. After leading by 18 points with 12 minutes left in the game, the Cougs relinquished their lead to the Cardinal and their charge led by Jeremy Green, who scored 18 of his 24 points in the second half, including the go-ahead bucket, which put the score at 60-58 as the game ended. With the win, Stanford remains the only team in the Pac-10 to have an undefeated home record. The Cardinal also ended a 4-game losing streak. Klay Thompson was a high point man for the Cougs, scoring 19.
Well, the Cougs looked to bounce back, from that heartbreaking loss to Stanford on Saturday when they headed across the Bay Bridge to take on first place Cal. Now, it was deja vu for the Cougs as they saw another first half lead dissipate. This time, the Cougs led by 11 thanks to a hot first half from Klay Thompson, scored 23 of his first 28 points in the first half in his return to the home state of California. The Cougs ended up falling 86-70 to the Bears, ending the game on a 15-0 run from Cal. Jerome Randall, not Landell, led the Golden Bears with 24 points.
On Tuesday, we caught up with Coach Bone at his weekly teleconference. Here's what he had to say about the state of his Cougar team and their recent trend of relinquishing halftime leads.
I've looked at that quite a bit, and it wasn't just 3 of the last 5 games. There were other games even earlier in the year that happened. I think part of that has to do with a lack of depth. Part of it has to do with young kids. But a lot of it has to do with myself as the coach. You know, maybe, for instance, maybe hypothetically I should be substituting more in the first half to save our kids' legs. But if I do that, then I also understand that maybe we don't have an 11-point lead on Cal at halftime. So there's give and take in almost everything we try to do. I'm trying to make sure that we've got the best guys on the floor at all times during that period of time. And sometimes in fact, almost every single game is to save certain guys for that last 3 or 4 minutes. And yet, even then, we've come up short. In fact, just the other night, I remember taking Klay Thompson out for a couple minutes, 2.5 minutes, and then put him back in about the last 5, so he would have fresh legs. So we do that, but we have coincidentally, I think, just not done well that last 3-4 minutes a number of games. Our zone is not great. We started out this year playing almost exclusively man-to-man, and we've gone to some zone because it hides some of the deficiencies that we have. One is we're not a very big team inside, so therefore we've played some zone and tried to do a better job of controlling the paint. But it's give and take. We do a better job there, but you're going to give up something. So then all of a sudden we're giving up threes. Our kids, I think, are trying to get out there and contest the threes, and but we haven't done a great job of it, and so teams have hit some threes. But if we do a great job there, if that's the focus, then a lot of times you're going to get beaten up inside. So it's definitely give and take.
Well, now we, and by we I mean our wonderful producer Gavin Scott Harris, were also able to catch up with Klay Thompson yesterday. Here's what he had to say to Alicia Kaiha.
Alicia Kaiha, I'm here with ITL, and this is Klay Thompson. Klay, how are you today?
I'm pretty good.
Wonderful. Actually, you know, I got a chance to go to the Olympics, and wanted to know, did you get to catch any of the highlights, anything from the Olympics or the Slam Dunk Games or Valentine's? I know you had a pretty busy weekend.
I just saw the opening ceremony. I really haven't followed after that, though. I saw some curling, and that was about it.
Definitely. So this last game, you've had quite a busy weekend. What was it like playing, you know, for the NBA scouts? What was that like?
Half the time you don't even realize they're there because they're never wearing gear or wearing NBA gear. So you just got to be yourself and play hard, and the rest should take care of itself.
Definitely. So for the last couple of games, you guys have come out really strong. First half. Second half comes around. What kind of attitude change, you know, happens between the second half?
I don't know. We just got to be more mature and learn from those 2 losses down in Northern California, and just try to come back and play UCLA and USC tough, and hopefully put 2 halves together and show our home crowd that we can still play.
So you're definitely a hot shot offensively. What kind of defense plays have you seen against you, fluctuation over the past course of the season?
Well, a lot of Pac-10 teams, they just don't help off the ball as much when sometimes when they're guarding me. But just got to adjust and just move without the ball and stay aggressive, and you can't let that get in your head.
Definitely in staying aggressive. What kind of motivation are you guys going to do? And definitely during practice, what kind of plays have you ran for the upcoming games for Thursday and Saturday? What are you going to do differently to show our home crowd that we can actually finish it off the second half?
Come with a lot of intensity and just play as hard as we can, and try and stay focused for 2 halves, and that's all we can do.
Definitely. And for the fans, what kind of pregame stuff do you do beforehand? Anything that you do?
No, I don't have any rituals or anything. I just try to get here on time. That's about it.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
And back to you, Dom and Michael in the studio.
Well, the men were on the road last week, and the women's basketball team prepared for a homestand versus Cal and Stanford after splitting games on their road trip to Arizona the previous weekend. The Cougs were riding high off their first Pac-10 win of the season versus ASU and were looking to start a win streak. Unfortunately, that streak ended just as fast as it started, with the Cougs losing to Cal 62-44. Wazoo mounted a strong comeback in the second half after trailing 32-13 at the break. They managed to come within 52-44, but that's the closest they would get to Cal, as the game would end on an 0-10 run. Jasmine Perkins and Kiki Moore led the way with the Cougs.